Boy, I have a fun idea. It's gonna make a great Uter video, and it's not gonna be that hard to complete. I'll be done with it really quick. So a few months ago, I was sitting around touching body parts, flexing my balls, and then I realized I wasn't playing Final Fantasy 1 with the worst rule set ever conceived by mortal man. I'm not positive about immortal man, maybe he came up with some other bullshit. And now I am here and no longer in the mood to touch body parts. But before my suffering, preamble. In the realm of RPGs, the amount some people are willing to push a game to its absolute breaking point is nothing short of deranged, disgusting, ball-brained, butthead, dick-mouth nonsense. And honestly, that description doesn't even begin to describe the challenge I've come up with today. This is Final Fantasy 1, the original, the classic, one of the most formative and important JRPGs ever made. It's a wonderful experience to this day, being probably the most concise and enjoyable of all the Final Fantasy games. And it's no stranger to an absolute fiendish amount of challenge runs that stupid assholes like myself do to make a unique and fun YouTube video that people watch and deposit money straight into my crevices. However, that also means that most of the good ideas have been taken. Whenever I set to make out a challenge video on any game, I go and look up whether or not someone has already done it, because I'm not second fiddle, I'm a first flute. I'm doing something original or I'm not gonna do it. And yeah, for that reason, you stupid easy challenge taking motherfucking people out there have made me come up with the asinine idea to beat Final Fantasy 1 without spending gold. You wanna know the ramifications of that idea? You want some context as to actually what gold equates to in this game? Well, from the top, gold spending is necessary to buy items that restore health or cure status effects, buy equipment for your party, use the inn to heal damage, use the clinic to resurrect party members, use the inn to have the ability to save the game. Final Fantasy, with all that shit gone in this run, might as well be called the game Finn, because yeah, story's over, magic's gone, there's absolutely nothing good here to help you. And if you're human, you may not be, and it could be a fucking Martian, you immediately believe that this is actually impossible and this is a troll video where at the end I'll say, this is impossible, thanks for wasting time today. But there's so much more that meets the eye about this run, to the point where it's almost conspiratorial, like there was an idea that this should have been possible. To determine our potential outlets of progression, we should take inventory on what we can still access with these rules, which are, to finally clarify, I can't spend gold in towns. I specify that because at one point in the game you have to spend a lot of gold to buy a ferry to progress, but it's a roaming caravan, and no one ever cares about story locked requirements like that. Plus, that's so shitting late into the game that if we can even get there, I will already have traversed some of the most slimy, horrendous things known to man. So for starters, we have access to all the classes. Of course, each class has obvious differences, and it's usually beneficial to take a variety of choices to make the party more rounded. Or you just take 4 fighters because they're ridiculously strong, but ordinarily it's fun to have the ability to cast magic, or to take the literally broken class of the monk, or gimp yourself by taking the thief who sucks at everything, you know, make the game dynamic. Problem is, when you spawn in, your characters have literally nothing equipped. They know no spells, and you're given a bit of starter cash to buy some stuff from the town. So first part of the challenge is that you spawn in with nothing, and you can't fix that. And since you have to purchase all your spells, we're effectively cutting the class selection in half, as there's no reason to take a mage. That leaves us with the fighter, the black belt, and the thief. And yeah, the thief is garbage, this is well known, but there's a unique benefit to him I'm going to withhold from telling you right now, because I'm retelling this story with great care and attention to chronological details. You too, man! So yeah, as of now, the thief is cheeks, we don't want him. The fighter, as previously stated, is completely the best class in the game, and they can equip everything, meaning they have incredible defenses and offenses, and their stat growth is crazy, with max level fighters easily able to have max health and deal incredible damage. So we're gonna take 3 of them. Why not 4, you may ask? Well, there's 2 reasons. One is that since I can only get gear I find, there's not a surplus of equipable armor and weapons, meaning one of my fighters is either gonna get nothing, or I'll be stretching my resources a little more thin. And secondly, the black belt, who's probably the most interesting class in the game, requires no gear whatsoever to become good, and by max level, the black belt is the only class that's able to outdamage a fighter, and is so fucking powerful they can actually one-shot the final boss with a little setup. That setup is by using the spell fast, which I'll never have, but still, you know, it still gets good. It hits outrageously hard as a result of Nasir Gabelli's weird-ass black belt scaling, where each level just gives them a fixed increase of power and crit chance, meaning at level 50 they hit way harder than the strongest weapon in the game, and they literally always crit at the max number of hits per round. The trade-off for that is that the black belt is a log of shit for like 10 levels, being awful at everything, including not being dead. But that is our Warriors of Light, the 3 fighters of We Are So, and the black belt of Fucked. When you spawn in, you'll notice immediately that the game doesn't have a save feature. You instead save by using the inn. The inn also restores all your health and magic charges. As it costs money, you'll never see an inn in this challenge. But it's time for a proper introduction. Chapter 1, the town of Corneria, a humble place with a decent smattering of enemies. There's not much to access at this time, with the town supposed to be the most important location for us. This long peninsula leading to the north is our only available territory, leading to the first dungeon in the game, the Temple of Fiends. Inside said temple is 3 chests containing a cap, a heal potion, and the first lifeline of the this challenge is single cabin. The tent, cabin, and house all restore HP in varying amounts and allow you to save the game on the overworld, which makes them the only way I can ever save, and is why this challenge can even be considered doable. I have to hop around from saving item to saving item and beat the game by plotting a unique course. I can't overuse these things, I only get so many. As of now, all we have to do is to go to the Temple of Fiends, and the boss hanging out in there is Garland, who's normally a complete pushover, and today will be getting more kills than he has ever fucking had on any number of players that have ever played this game. Once you defeat him, the bridge leading north away from Corneria opens up and you can progress to what I consider Chapter 2. We'll get there later. So at this point, you are 4 people with around 30 HP each that can never heal and not buy anything to help you survive, and since Final Fantasy 1 was programmed by Master Gabelli, the game is broken beyond belief, and gear contributes so much to your strength it's almost absurd. Without gear, imps alone, the weakest enemy in the game, are smashing my balls among my other less important body parts, so that means that grinding enemies to gain levels early is not viable. That being said, I tried to grind because that's the only way I could currently increase my strength, and I figured if I could hit level 2 on my party, we'd have a better chance of actually killing Garland. I had to look into this, and the only issue really is that to reach level 2 you have to accrue 40 experience points, and the enemies in this section of the game are hilariously inefficient to grind. If you could even call this grinding, it's more like spinning a slot machine 10,000 times, because again, when imps hit for like 8, that's insane. But as I said, the Temple of Fiends houses a cap, a heal potion, and that glorious cabin, and I got excited thinking about that fucking cap. I was like, no cap, this is doable. But literally, no cap. The cap is actually a cap piece of cap shit. It's an item that has 1 absorb and -1 evasion. Considering I'm taking remarkable amounts of damage anyway, the best defense is actually just having enemies miss, something that's actually moderately common in Final Fantasy 1, so that leaves a potion and the cabin as useful items in the Temple of Fiends. Our blockade for the next part of the game is Garland, of course, who is 106 HP and hits for around 15 to 30 per round unless he misses. I figure if I can get through this process of killing him early and quick, we can move towards brighter pastures with more chests to bolster our team. Yeah, by the way, the gap between these chests and the next ones you find is larger than the gap in my ass after I was done with this challenge. Okay, here's how this whole thing goes and my logic. Back to the character select. This is the nerd section. We're explaining all the fucking details, the dettles. Let's talk about why I'm taking a black belt instead of 4 fighters. And you know, they are the best characters in the class. The fighter, that is, that's true, but the black belt is completely broken in the classic version of Final Fantasy 1 and has a unique mechanic where each level automatically gives him linear stat growth, whereas all the other classes derive benefits only from gear. So essentially, it's a self-sustained, constantly growing monster class that by the end of the game can get so strong that even with a bit of planning, it can one-shot anything. We won't be getting that ungodly powerful, but being very naturally strong would be a big help, as gearing 4 fighters with only stuff found in chests will be hard. That being said, the black belt may grow into a mighty oak, but he starts off like a tiny twig who dies if anything even remotely looks at him, and while the idea is that later on being unarmed makes you ridiculously strong, which is great, early on you hit for 1 damage, so they're a dead character choice, as the fighter unarmed can hit for even 10 at level 1. Now, for the sake of transparency, if you lose the game prior to saving in any capacity, the game does not let you continue from the start. You have to remake your characters, and I am incredibly on emulator today, as this challenge absolutely requires me to play on like 8 times speed, because otherwise with the amount of suffering I have to endure, you would never see this video. It wouldn't come out. It wouldn't come out. And likewise, it takes about 1 minute to remake characters, so I drop a save state at the very start just so I can return to this moment every time I lose. This has a slight ramification, but it's not the biggest deal in the world, and this gives me a great opportunity to segue and talk about the encounter table, so it's all worth it. By the end of this video, you will know so many random strange facts about Final Fantasy 1, almost all of which are not needed to actually understand or enjoy the game on most levels. That is, if you keep watching the entire video. I would, but you know, I would watch the video. This game is programmed to seem random, but it's actually completely plottable if you know what's going on. Every encounter in this game is pre-programmed and selected based on what slot it falls into. Side note, word choice and descriptions I will give will be more apish and probably wrongly phrased compared to a seasoned speedrunner or whatever like that, but you know, you're not listening to those sticks in the mud, you're listening to the stick in your ass currently. This is the table. Take a look at that. I've put together some tables in my life. This is a big table. What does this table mean? All right, the integers of 1 through 8 here represent how common or uncommon an encounter is. As such, 8 is the least common and only shows up 4 times in 256 encounters, and you'll be able to fully predict when you come across them. Every battle increments this table by 1, whether you run, vanquish the enemies, be vanquished like a little bish, or even reset the console. That's how a lot of people actually force the table into an ideal position, by simply getting into a random encounter and then resetting to move the value up by 1. So if you wanted to reach the string of encounters from value 50 to 60, you'd have to waste 49 encounters by resetting before progressing on. Yeah, nerd shit. I actually love this nerd stuff, so don't talk bad about it. I'm watching you, I'm watching. The determination for what 1 through 8 actually represent is based upon where in the game world you are, which dungeon you're currently in, plus floors are all different, so guess what? Without giving away what I had to fucking do, I made charts of enemy encounters that are surprisingly tedious to find, and I had to lose my mind by scanning my eyes slowly down this big table to determine who or what and where and why an enemy would show up. There's a few reasons for doing this, with it being very important, but for the sake of good video storytelling, I'll drip feed you relevant details a bit later. I'll keep you abreast of what's possible to encounter in each zone by taking the world map and dividing it into the 8x8 grid it was programmed as. This section of the game comprises 4 different squares on this grid. For now, all we have to say is that we are here in Corneria, amidst all the Deliria, and we have to defeat Garland to continue on. As I said, imps, they're dealing too much damage to grind on, and levels in Final Fantasy 1 do not give you health as you level, instead gives you potential health, intending that you rest at an inn or use health potions. So it's useless, and other than literally 1 health potion in the Temple of Fiends to the north, there's no other way to restore health right now, so it's not worth grinding to get to level 2. All level 2 really does is give us a bit more damage, and you might wonder what about the other stats, but let's go over those real quick. Let's explain. Strength increases the attack statistic, which equates to dealing more damage. It actually works. That will not always be the case. Agility increases accuracy and evasion stats, but has absolutely no impact on when anyone gets to go in combat. The way that works instead is that every slot a character can occupy is scrambled at the start of every round. So if there's 9 enemies and all 4 player characters are left alive, the game is going to randomize the position of those 13 entities, and then it just goes down the list, meaning there's absolutely nothing you can do to impact when you get to go. It's actually ass crack. Intellect does absolutely fucking nothing, so that's some good programming there. Not that it matters. What it's supposed to do is increase the potential of spellcasting, something we will never do. Stamina simply increases the amount of HP gained upon leveling up. It does not give anyone any defense with the exception of the black belt. For them, they gain 1 defense per 8 stamina for their empty head and the gloves and equipment slot, and 1.5 defense per 4 stamina rounded down for the body armor slot. Nerd shit! Therefore, to begin, the black belt gets to have 5 defense as the game starts, just for being a real man with a big ass chest that absorbs imp daggers. Luck is strange and has nothing to do with most things and is entirely for the benefit of run chance. This is something we will return to, as the run button is without a doubt the strongest tool we have in this game. Attack as a statistic is impacted by the formula of strength divided by 2 plus your weapon. That means you have awful attack power unarmed unless you are the black belt. His calculation is strength divided by 2 plus stamina plus 1 times 3 over 4. Oh my god, that's some nerd shit right there. Accuracy is among the most important stats in the game, as it is what controls how many attacks your character will make. Strangely enough, this system works in reverse, where the game checks to see whether you hit if your accuracy check is less than or equal to some long formula that no one cares about. Additionally, every 32 points in accuracy gives you another attack. Your equipped weapon gives an increase to the accuracy statistic, but levels actually also increase it. It's class dependent, but a fighter gains 3 accuracy per level, which is quite good. It's quite big.
It's larger than my dick.
Critting is the only way we can ever foreseeably harm a lot of things in the early game, but unfortunately, the game was designed by
Master Rebellion
and therefore doesn't work in an understandable fashion. The chance to crit is hidden, but is bugged, meaning you are much more likely to crit depending on what weapon you have, linearly scaling upwards as you gain better weapons. So, for now, crits are total dick, and additionally, for critting with literally unarmed fists, you have to roll a direct 0 on a scale from 0 to 200, giving you apparently a 1 in 200 chance to crit unarmed as a non-black belt. Defense is statistically influenced by gear unless you're a black belt, of course, meaning we have no defense alterations early in the game except for the dumbass cap that doesn't matter. Evasion affects the chance to dodge attacks, and you gain 2 per point of agility, and that you can only gain 1 of max per level, so how it calculates only a loser wizard man could inform us, of which I am assuredly not one, so therefore, I don't know what the fuck. Magic defense strangely exists, despite the offensive spell boosting stat of intelligence not working, and the defensive side of things actually does work, so that's great. The game does not show you the stat, it does not tell you the stat rises, and the way the stat impacts your survival is not readily accessible information, so I have nothing to say again. So the point about stats is that at level 2, nothing is really going to change. We need to run through the blender to arrive in the smoothie, so it's just time to run north and punch Garland to death. The only issue is that I have to grab those 2 chests in the top left corner of the Temple of Fiends, meaning there's already at least 2 extra encounters we have to get past. And they're also potentially enemies of the anus annihilating variety, and as such, the heal is probably going to go directly into someone's ass immediately. immediately. That cabin is perhaps the most necessary item to grab in this entire run, as it's the first save point we'll ever have. Now, for your viewing enjoyment, I'll have a little UI set up here to display how many attempts this takes per zone, the total number of deaths, and what every player has equipped. Plus, I'll keep you abreast of my own independent chapter organization. This is going to be a ride into a wall, among other things you'd like to not ride into. There are various concepts for doing this, and since I'm loading from save state to make my life not literally X plus 2 minutes extra long per attempt, didn't think I'd be busting out the algebra, did you? Figured I'd be busting in your ass, but anyway, I've been labbing numbers for weeks now, working on every permutation of this stupid fucking area of the game, and let me tell you, there's nothing great about it. Again, level 2 doesn't mean much to us, but it is nice, of course, so there's some reason we figure we might as well go and get that done before Garland. As there's going to be random encounters anyway, maybe we just go for that luck to begin with. Also, a little interesting thing, but the grass tiles surrounding the city do not have any enemy encounter on them, so if you just walk around the forest, which does have enemies in them, you can move further up north without incrementing the random encounter number. The way this cryptic gas system works is that every step increments an invisible counter, and when that step counter reaches high enough, you get into an encounter. Steps taken that are not enemy rich do not increment the counter, and the number in which the game requires for a random encounter to take place is arbitrarily decided after every battle. So it's random, but more steps equals you closing into the next fight, so that's relevant. It means we'll be desperately trying to walk as correctly and efficiently as possible. I am playing on like 400% speed after all, so walking efficiently, I would say we are fucked. Also, so you know, this is the only segment of the game we'll be using save states to load from, and that matters because it means I'll never increment the encounter table when I load from save state. I do apologize for slightly bending the rules, but with what I will go through in this video,
I don't care.
So of course we have the lovely imps maintaining a large number of the encounters, as well as their good friend, the grimps, and then add some wolves in there, the creep, the mad pony, even a spider and a bone, and believe me, the joke is that this bone is not the only bone I do be getting. It means the game is plundering my ass. Everything hits for 1,000,000 damage. It's like you're made out of ball sack material, which is ball sack. You're just sad taking 10 damage from grimps, and then 6 wolves preemptively strike you and you're dead. Literally, the challenge is over there. This illustrates a unique trait of this run though, and that it is unlike traditional playing where you are terrified of the bigger and more powerful enemies. This time you're in the mood to see them because you're already feeble against the small gremlins. You don't mind the large Goliaths. Take the mad pony. One of these bad boys nets you 15 experience, which is 40% of the distance to level 2. So if you just get a little lucky dodge, you could slam this guy down for free. This concept wanes in truth, but usually one enemy is far preferable to many. So I started looking through this encounter table to figure out where the least group activity was, and unfortunately it's not all that common. Of everything around here, the spiders, creeps, ghouls, and mad ponies are either alone or in very small groups, but you actually can't swing with creeps, no joke. The creep is fucking stronger than Garland. The mad pony is strong enough to put a hole in a screen door and also in the black belt's hole, but that's a preferable fight if I can get it because it's just, you know, they can miss, it's not so bad. Spiders are also good, but they have a very high preemptive rate, which reduces the desire to farm them, and the ghoul is also unkillable. I should have mentioned that. He'll probably one-shot somebody. So, again and again, fruitlessly, I would run north, fight things, die, reload, north, fight, die, reload, north, fight, survive, get the cabin, Garland, die, reload, get desperate and grab the cap, does nothing, die, reload, and I figured this might be the worst thing I've ever wasted time doing. So here's the thing, you might think, what is the point? Where does this get better? What are you working towards? And now I'll illuminate you. There is a pre-planned route, and I know what I'm doing. I've kind of faked it, but you know, I made it this far. The Heel Staff, a weapon found in the Castle of Ordeals much later into the game. It has a unique benefit of, when it's used in combat, to cast the heal spell. For free, infinitely. The heal spell heals the whole party for 12 to 24 life. Yes, I am also completely solid. Once I get my hands on this baby, we are way safer. You can always just return to the imps at the beginning of the game and get a free restore of all your health. Then you can grind on hard enemies, go back, heal up, repeat, and it just sounds so beautiful to extend to hell and back to get that staff and to become mighty with it in hand. It's like 7 chapters from now. So I start thinking about a little strategy about getting the level 2 in front of Garland, using the cabin, and you know, that adds a save point, and then start fighting him until I get a good fight. The thing is, the game designers fucked me 35 years ago, and there isn't another saving item until the Marsh Cave, which is not around here. It's actually quite over there. Chapter 3 stuff, that's what we're looking at. So yes, with the cabin right in front of Garland, I could defeat him comfortably and then move on, but it's fruitless. I literally can't do that because I need a save right before the Marsh Cave. I will later explain why, and then I need one after the Marsh Cave. I literally need it. The run ends if I don't use it after the Marsh Cave. So sadly, there is no recourse. I have to do the following. Walk to the Temple of Fiends and grab the items. Defeat Garland. End of chapter 1. Walk north to Matoya's Cave and get some free items. Walk east to Bravoka. Defeat 9 pirates. Get on the boat across the sea to the west. Arrive in Elfland. That's where the elves live, by the way. Walk 1,000,000 miles to the southwest. Get to the entrance of the Marsh Cave. Save the game. End of chapter 2. All in one save, without any healing or anyone dying. Yeah, well, this is where we can suggest a lot of problems, and it goes beyond enemy hit hard. After Garland, the world map opens up dramatically. From here, we're going to have many new land encounters, all of the sea encounters, and a boss fight, those being the 9 pirates. Among all these enemies is the vile, shitty snakes. Asp, short for Asp Sucker. The reason being is that these enemies are the first of unbelievable many that poison. Poison is cured by Pure. There's about 5 Pures in the game to find. Of course, you can buy Pures, but that's the rub, ain't it? We can't do that. So by random chance, a friendly character getting hit by anything that poisons may end the run because, okay, yeah, the character is literally going to die unless I have a Pure to waste. Poison never goes away naturally. It makes the character take 1 point of damage per step forever, and it also makes them take damage in combat. And in combat, they can just die from it. It doesn't stop their health at 1 like many other later Final Fantasies do. It's game over. There is, for clarity, 1 Pure in Matoya's Cave. Unfortunately, as nice as it would be to save your run right then, there's the Marsh Cave coming up with 4 enemies that poison. You can study the encounter table all you'd like. There's probably no string of luck that doesn't run into something that causes poison, meaning you'd like to keep that 1 lifeline around. This isn't even the run's final form though. It's all still building up. I can't stress how unlikely the run gets from, again, Garland, North, East, Pirates, West, Southwest, save the game because, again, you've used the encounter table to avoid poison. You've gotten Mondo lucky with Garland. Oops, it's the iguana. You're dead. Restart. Then let's be honest, ignore random encounters and then let's talk about the pirates. The easiest boss in the game normally, but here without a doubt an absolute menace. 9 pirates that are full of Lyme disease. Look how green these guys are. When they hit against armor, they deal like 1 damage usually. With no armor, they hit more for like 10. Meaning if you get unlucky with the random order sorting, you'll take 90 damage before hitting any of them. Even at best, you will shave off only 4 of them before taking about 50, ignoring the hopeful chance that they miss. Reiterate, Garland slams your ass. The RNG can be bad. What the fuck to do? That's a haiku for being more highbrow, just like my forehead. But I'll tell you, I would run from the start of the game over and over again with about a 10% chance to beat Garland, with then another 10% chance of getting to Provoca, to the 5% chance that we'd actually survive the fight with the pirates, to the Far Cry prayer that I would make my way across the sea, past Elfland, which has nothing to grab by the way, to the southwest, where I could finally save some progress. So yeah, like literally 25 hours of hyperspeed attempts of this, and I was ready to start sucking on a big bottle. That's not a euphemism. It could have been. You know me, but I'm serious. I'm getting depressed. And this all isn't the bad part. That's what's so funny. This is the appetizer for the ass feast. For some interest, let's discuss what immediately follows after this marathon run to the Marsh Cave and why you absolutely must save right outside that dungeon. You have to get a crown out of this chest in here, which seems easy enough, except it's guarded by a group of wizards. Now, in fiction, in traditional media, in the very simple logic of what a wizard is, you'd expect someone who is very defenseless but offensively powerful with the use of magic spells and abilities. That's not the case here. The wizard has no spells and is built for tough. I'm talking this motherfucker take literally nothing and punch for goddamn amounts of damage. I mean, they're like 2 Garlands worth of power and have 84 HP, and the kicker is that you're not fighting one of these guys. You're fighting a random number of 2 to 4 of them. So picture this. The Marsh Cave is full, literally chocked to the brim of my grand ass full of things that poison, hit extremely hard, come in groups of 9, and just end the run right then and there. And after the Gauntlet of Death, your reward is to instantly reset the game because you didn't win a 1 in 3 chance of getting the minimum number of 2 wizards. And don't think it matters. Without weapons, you hit the wizards for 1 damage. They deal 50 at least. So before you get to go to them, you need to go and grab the treasures in this place, including a short sword and a large dagger, which means more RNG running around and hoping for the best. The easiest way to grab both of these is by going the opposite way to the wizards and grabbing the 2 chests on the top level. Funnily enough, the short sword has a couple of spawn points, so you can grab it in one of several places, one of those being on the way downstairs towards the old buff wizards themselves. But sadly, the dagger only has 1 spawn location and it has a better chance to crit, which is really all that matters, so we gotta go up and get it. There's also an iron armor on the way to the boss, which is great news. It's really good. That means that one of your fighters will take substantially less damage than the others. That sounds hopeful, right? Like, with good weapons and some armor, we can definitely wage a successful war against these 2 robed cock and ballers. Well, earlier, remember I mentioned that critting is a 1 in 200 chance unarmed, and that weapons really control the rate in which you inflict a critical hit. For the most part, crits are gnarly as they basically render an opponent's absorb stat moot, just as this challenge run renders my life capabilities moot, but forget me, just focus on this fact. With a large dagger and a short sword, the crit from both will dispatch a wizard in 1 round. Yeah, that is a fact. Here's another fact. Nope. I won't lie, I needed to know if you could do this, and I save stated just to see if it worked ever, and it barely does. I maybe got a crit every 15 attacks, and that's without consideration of how everyone was doing. I would concede to let every one one of us get our backs and butts and brains blown out just to see if I could even fell one of the 2 wizards. And at this point, I didn't even feel like I was going anywhere with this. I was save scumming to try fight hundreds of times that I couldn't win once. But I swear, it's so tasty, the entire idea. I felt like I was getting right on the cusp of somewhere, the cusp of my balls getting tingled, let me tell you. Mostly because everything is theoretically possible. It's just a shame we have this log of absolute ass with the black belt. He's doing nothing. His only noteworthy contribution so far was being barely able to one-shot the pirates, otherwise dealing minimal damage as we travel around. Plus, I haven't done anything for real yet. I am just experimenting. And that's when I decided to do a little digging. I went and looked at the other versions of Final Fantasy 1 for clarification to see if I was able to do something else, and I found a few interesting differences. In more versions than not, the game starts off fighters with a dagger and a shirt. My interest was piqued. Secondly, the latest release of Final Fantasy was the easiest yet because enemies dropped items, meaning you could do much more with your resources. And almost every version had a quick save feature, meaning I could just quick save hard fights and try them again and again. Don't worry, I'm not about to go on with this baby shit and go to a different version. Believe you me, I am a man. It's time to complete the man-ass dumping NES version where boys become man-boys. That being said, I wanted to allow myself the concession of giving my warriors daggers. Yeah, I know, this is now like the title is totally lying. Standard YouTuber, who is this guy? Where is Seer? The guy who will waste his life for no other reason than to give an excuse to swear 500 times. But here's the thing, I gave this a try for so long, I literally broke my balls going as hard as I did. I have so many gigage consumption on my hard drive of footage, I tried everything, and this is why I decided the pathway to getting to chapter 3 is by doing the following. The fighters are gonna get daggers to start, no shirts because we're buff boys. I'll take only half a concession, thank you. Secondly, I use a thief. Yeah, I know you might question as to why I'm going to start using this underpowered blue-haired ass licker. Well, that luck statistic I mentioned earlier, which typically has 0 relevance, has a unique aspect, and it's called
Nazir Gabelli.
the running glitch, is where running is supposed to be entirely based on luck and level alone, but instead it's luck plus the status of the party member 2 positions lower. That means that the character who is in the top 2 position can run 100% of the time always without fail if they have enough luck, except against unrunnable encounters. The fun has just started. We'll talk about that later, if you have a healthy party member below. For clarity, the wizards represent one of the most iconic unrunnable encounters in the game, and therefore we can't just flee to get past them, if you were wondering. So as early as level 2, the thief in the second position will always run when it's their turn, meaning we've reduced the luck needed to run all the way to the marsh cave from impossible to improbable. I like that babble. The only problem, of course, the thief just sucks forever, but that's actually tolerable because just like the healing staff, there's a weapon in the game that infinitely casts group dealing magic. It's going to be a long time for us to get those items as well, but as soon as we do, he'll just sit there and use an item over and over again, acting as kind of a bad mage. Since he would also start with a dagger, we give him one as well. I would like to real quick give some extra clarification. This dagger concession will give me absolutely no benefit in the marsh cave and beyond. Daggers are some of the shittiest weapons known to man. Except for the rod is worse than hitting them with my rod. With 4 daggers and a thief, we can now go straight up to Garland and slap his posterior, giving us a very likely chance of killing him and being able to move on to the pirates, whom are still difficult to reach on account of the fact that we seem to get poisoned or just die. The thief goes and runs last, and we've taken all the hits. It's still, you know, the difficulty's still persisting. And yeah, that running bug means that I have to put the thief right in the second position, meaning he's getting focused more often than 2 fighters. That's what I love in life, my thief being a face tank. And yeah, like I said, the pirates themselves are no easier to survive, but we will now confidently one-shot them with each character, so with a little luck we can survive and get to the boat. Now, I'm not lying to you, getting this far ever with the cabin still in hand makes it so tempting to just save in Elfland, but I'll spoil something for you. If we consider the difficulty of these first 2 chapters a 10, the Marsh Cave is a literal fucking 100. It's not going to be easy in any sense of the word. We need to have a save right up against the hole to the earth hole, is so to speak, if we're ever going to actually do this. So a brief surveil of the encounter table around here shows a few new enemies. In the werewolf, the arachnid, and the scorpion as enemies who poison, taking up 4 of the 8 encounter spaces. Otherwise, we have ogres and the lovely grogers. But you know what's funny? There was a run shortly after adopting the thief. It was just like adopting the Pope into your ranks because we got blessed by the blue-haired beast and we just zoom across the land. Shank Garland's robust backside. Cartwheel up to Matoya's cave. Pop the 2 healing items straight into the mouth. And then encounter. Boom, run. Another encounter. Bam, gone. 4 wolves, another encounter. All of them go first. Game sucks. But literal next encounter of 4 wolves. Done deal. We're gone again. We're onto the pirates with really good HP. And then these stink blockheads put so to 1 HP. Literally by the skin of my Bach and Calyx, we make it. Immediately I'm on the ship. I see visions of the end, but in a remarkable turn of good luck, we get 2 actions before the group of 8 does, and we're still going, still zooming towards the big hole. You don't have any idea the clench I had on this. 3 Gwolfs, and I get to run again. At this point, there is an argument to save because this is 1 in thousands to even get to this point, honestly. But with how absolutely fiendishly bad the marsh cave is, we need to reduce walking time. To fully clarify, once I use the cabin, the game saves and I can load from that point. So this will become the new beginning of the game. We keep walking. Instantly 2 asps and they both attack and don't poison. Good lord. Next battle, ogre and 2 creeps, and they all try to kill R and nearly do, but such a clutch miss means we get to continue onwards. 5 wolves and life seems to stand still as we realize we're completely doomed, only to see the blink of the preemptive encounter. Balls up high in butt. At this point, with us looking down the barrel of only realistically 1 more random encounter before reaching the cave, I have only a 7 or 8 on the scale of 5 of a mental crisis going on. So, do I just say the additional amount of time to walk to the cave from here doesn't matter, or does 20 seconds times 5 billion attempts equal me dying from time waste? I decide to push forward, like 7 steps, then I bitch out. I'll take the waste so I never have to see Garland again. And we are here, we are finally to the next section of the game, completely legitimately, no save states involved, no cheating. What? Daggers, fucking daggers. Okay, we use, yes. Yeah, I hear you, Ben, I hear you. Shut the fuck up about it. We are now here and all we have to do is kill the wizards and we're only level 2. That is a big problem. For clarification, the tool-assisted speedrun for Final Fantasy 1 is at level 3 for the Wizards fight, so that basically means that even when cheating, it's unreasonable to be level 2. But it doesn't matter, after dozens of hours of attempts, me wanting to give up time and time again, we have reached the Marsh Cave. Now, as previously mentioned, the only way we're going to actually have a chance to defeat the Wizards is by having some better firepower, but I don't think I adequately described this place. It is why did I talk like that? It's titanically large in comparison to everything else we have traversed, and most of the encounters in this dungeon have a poison inflicting enemy. Not to mention, things like scorpions hit for around 50 damage, 50 big ones, 50 resets to even imagine getting the dagger and sword and going downstairs, and having to tediously re-equip all those items and then get poisoned, reset, poison, killed, get the items, poison, reset, make it all the way to the wizards. There's 4 of them reset. It makes for quite literally the worst gaming experience I've ever had. I would rather click this one wall in old school RuneScape where you get 1 agility experience 13 million times to get to max level, because any kind of progress is the most addictive thing in the world when you consistently restart, try again, go again, and really to get to the wizards only to have them spawn 2 is one thing, then beating them without dying is another, and I'm not underselling that fact, by the way. It's a very large another. And finally, after all that shit, you have to walk outside the dungeon again. There's a house in here, the literal only reason we're still playing the game, and it's easy enough to grab. It's just that the position you want to use the house in is far north in comparison to the Marsh Cave, so you're gonna have to beat the Marsh Cave, leave, and then walk north and then use the house and then breathe for the first time in a whole paragraph. But forget it. Let me say it. Let me show you. These wizards are unreasonable. You need to crit so hard to kill them, and they don't need to do anything to kill you. They can miss rarely. That's the only good thing you can remotely pray for. Otherwise, good luck. Minutes becomes hours. Hours becomes multiple hours. Multiple hours quite logically becomes days. Days therefore continue for a while, and then you stop making videos on YouTube because all the time you could be spending editing and producing anything is instead being consumed by this green prison. The same inputs over and over again just to see 4 wizards, to see 2 wizards, but they crit you for 100 damage and one-shot you, just to be able to dream about the concept of getting outside and then somehow braving your way to the north and getting into the next section of the game. So yeah, eventually I kill the wizards and get outside. Trust me, I won't pull a fast one later and return to discuss this portion of the game in better detail because it's the worst thing ever known to man and I could spend about an hour in this section of the game alone. Nope, that was the Marsh Cave. It's done. Now we're off that subject. We're level 3 and still have to walk to the north. There's a lot on my mind like, fuck, but there's also no alternative because chapter 4 is ass toast, and believe me, my ass is toast here because this is the first boss that lives up to the concept of what a boss should be. As if I have been lying this whole time, Astos seems like he's impossible to kill. Normally, you either need to be a much higher level than 3 or have a black mage with you, whose spellcasting is not impeded by Astos' ridiculous absorb statistic. For a guy who looks like a folding chair, he's built more like a lazy boy. Bro has some cushion on him. And yeah, the guy casts fucking death as well. Called Rub in this game, which I will, thank you, Astos just typically kills one of your characters immediately. If it misses, great, I'll grab my chance, until a few spells down his 100% scripted spell pattern equates to him casting Fire 2 and then Lit 2, which are both multi-hit spells that deal like 80 plus damage and practically one-shot the entire game. So yeah, alright, yes. Guy has 168 HP, and without crits, you are looking at about dealing 1 damage a strike. Here's the luck necessary. Rub has to miss. After Rub, Astos has Slow 2 and Fast to cast before he'll cast Fire and Lit 2, so you need to defeat him before those spells all come out. If he decides to punch, which hurts decently badly but is preferable, it doesn't increment his spell selection, so that's a free round, so to speak. At only a 25% chance to punch, that's not terribly reliable, but still, it's a nice benefit. So, just pop it on 1600% speed and get to town. This is easy. We can farm this all day. We will do this. So, this fucking asshole is so durable, you cannot carve through him without insane luck. And we're trying to keep all of us alive, of course, which means even if the fight is going good, which I don't know if it is, the game is moving so fast, I just hold A and wait, I can't see anything. And the longer we are all not just falling down, the better I think we're doing. But really, I was here for hours, just resetting and walking upwards and dying. I said it earlier, but really, this might be worse than the Wizards because it's just a tease. I go like 9 rounds with this guy, full 3-minute ones, and I think how close was that shit? Watch it back, and I hit him for like 16 damage. Misses and basic hits represent the same outcome. Nothing. 1 damage dinks will not get you where you've got to go with Astos. That's fun dialogue. That's like t-shirt material. Check out my new t-shirt shop. I'm just lying. I don't have one, but I could. It would say balls and cocksuckers, motherfuckers. The footage on my computer seems to say I have many hours of this, just getting wailed on by the green man. So, that's cool. I tried so long, and after holding left up and A 1,000 times, you start wondering if you could just program a bot to try this. So I started looking into that, and sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm dumb and couldn't get it to work, so nope, caveman time, hold the buttons. And akin to the Wizards, one day he dies. Wow, that's amazing. There's nothing else to say about this one. We're done. We've beaten Astos. I'll see you guys later at the end of the video. So with Astos in a FedEx truck and a box labeled "Ship this to hell," we are in possession of the crystal. We can now, with the fear of the ancients, walk back to the boat up to Matoya's cave, get the medical marijuana, boat back to Elfland, talk to the prince, receive the mystic key, and then boat north to the dwarf cave, and finally get some good items and 2 more save points. R has 9 health. So yes, this is another fine example of RNG apocalypse, but there's some kind of karmic luck on my side for having lost Final Fantasy 1 this many times, and we managed to run around, run away, and boat up to the dwarf cave. But in the final closer to this chapter, don't imagine the game wanted to give me any degree of kindness or luck. That ogre nearly just ended my life. But now that we're in this friendly cave with a key, we can open a locked door to receive the Christmas morning of loot. A cabin, iron helm, a dragon sword, silver knife, wooden helm, silver armor, and a house. It's a big time, big boy, big boy. I take my final gamble and boat back to Corneria, and using this house to fully restore my party is euphoric, and now we are finally in Chapter 5, The Grind. First of many grinds, to be honest. Here's how this goes. I need to start from this point and go north back to the Temple of Fiends, as there are 2 locked rooms in there that required the Mystic Key to open. If you open them, they have chests guarded by gargoyles. With the new armor and weapons, this fight, while hard, is not impossible, and we can kill them if we get lucky. These are spike squares though, so if you walk over them by accident or choice again, you'll always fight gargoyles. But you can actually run from them as well, but since we have a save point, we should aim to get the most experience possible in the cleanest way fashion. The cleanest way fashion. We gotta go to big. This script is so long, my god, my penis will start getting jealous if we keep going for another like 4 hours at least. Maybe 5 or 8 days. If this is where the chapter ended, I'd be greatly appreciative, but we have so many things to take care of first. We have to go back to the dwarf cave again to drop off TNT in order to open up a pathway to the west, which leads to the first major dungeon, the Earth Cave. Yes, the Marsh Cave is by all accounts a minor dungeon, imagine that. Inside the Earth Cave is the first real boss of the game, Lich. Yes, Astos by all accounts is a minor boss, imagine that. The coming challenges are way harder, but since the Temple of Fiend grants us the Rune Sword and a Were Sword, we now have 3 competently strong fighters and 1 very ass thief to work with. Armor found in Corneria's locked chest as well give us a lot more defense for the coming battles. There's also one of very few sauce to collect at this point, an item that cures Petrify, as if poison wasn't enough of a pain in the asshole, we now have another thing to worry about, Petrify. Although the funny thing with Petrify is that it makes a character a statue that is basically in stasis, so I can carry them around as a manufactured garden gnome forever until I get another soft, if that is so necessary. Hopefully won't be a consideration I have to make, but it is an option. Anyway, since we have a nice supply of health right now, it's more ideal that we start grinding. The world map is much more ideally open to us, and it becomes apparent the best method for gaining experience at this point is to use a hybrid of the sea and land near the dwarves. Encounters 2, 5, 7, and 8 on the sea contain sharks, and they are very efficient targets to grind on, as I can sometimes kill them before they act, and if they do attack, there's a decent likelihood they hit my front very defensive fighter and deal low damage. On land, groups 3, 4, 5, and 8 contain ogres who are now mostly hitting me for 1 damage and can die with relative ease. Although since there are asps and arachnids over here, I have to consciously follow the encounter table, which is not so bad considering I have a save point close by again. The goal is to get from level 4 to at least level 6, but it's easier said than done. I would go about my business taking fights as carefully and planned out as possible, but unfortunately there's the occasional sustained critical hit or the thief gets randomly assaulted and dies, and at this point I can't afford to lose anyone, and anytime we get too low on health or outright killed, it's time to reset. I have violated the reset button on this playthrough, let me tell you. Again and again we farm and die and blow my butt apart, I do not lie, but eventually I reach level 6 and think, okay, this is fine, let's head over to Melman, the new city opened up by using the TNT. Just to, quick terrorism, blow up the mountains, be a cocker suckerhead. This area of the world offers you a couple new dungeons, and of course Melmond, which we of course cannot utilize, of course. The only thing that literally slurps butt is that our encounter table no longer offers us any safe passage up until we reach outside of the Earth Cave, where we would be able to use our cabin and create a new save point. Encounter 1 is Geists and Ghouls, which is awful news as they come in large groups, their attacks paralyze, and they just deal massive damage, so very bad to run into. Group 2 and 4 are Shadows, which are a unique case where they preemptively strike you at a rate of around 250 out of 256 times, meaning if you encounter them, they get an entire round to beat on you for free. And as they come in large groups, that really sucks. Encounter 3 is the good old Groger, and that's fine. Encounter 5 has Ogres and Hyenas, which are fine as well. Encounter 6 is usually 7 or more Gwolfs. Encounter 7 are Sabertooths, which are massive enemies which hit ridiculously hard even through all our armor. And Encounter 8 is a lot of shit that poisons, so it's not good around here. I looked for a route, but I can't save again to fish for a better outcome, so the 3 random encounters you need to take to cross over from this stretch of land to get to the Earth Cave is simply a gamble. A gamble which does pay off, as we only get 2 groups of Shadows, which while annoying do not deal insane damage to kill us.
And with that, we use a cabin, and welcome to Chapter 6, the Earth Cave. I talk like this now, it's been 40 minutes, what the fuck?
Now that we are in Der Earthhöhle, it is without a doubt the largest dungeon in the game so far, being akin to a grown-up version of the Marsh Cave. Die Sumpfhöhle. It houses the first of the 4 fiends, Lich, and is a requirement to access the rest of the world. By the way, he's a bitch. Quite funnily, maybe due to an oversight or a deliberate development, but as soon as you defeat Lich, you can tackle anything else out of order, so I can go get that heal staff immediately and love life the instant I'm out of here. Sadly, there's a lot involved with getting out of here. Lich is at the bottom of 5 floors, but in order to reach the real depths of the bowels of this dumption, we need the rod, and sadly the one in my pants will not do. We need this old man's rod, and he is guarded by this large titan guy who wants to eat a ruby before he'll get out of the way. I would normally say, let's just kill him, but considering how feeble we are, I wouldn't risk it actually. He can suck on a little ruby for all I care, whatever makes him happy at night. And that's the rubby. We need to kill a vampire on the 3rd floor of the Earth Cave to get the ruby, so the first goal is, mini boss time. It's funny with challenge runs because normally we could reach a point of critical mass where life becomes easier, but I'm sorry, I've got to be dramatic again. This dungeon makes me want to squash my head with a large squash, or with any other phallic-shaped vegetable. They're all fine with me. The Earth Cave is located with horrendous encounters, and there's hardly anything to help you out along the way down here. There's a pure to cure poison again, but it's out of the way. It involves taking several more encounters, where if you get poisoned, that completely wasted your time. Then there's the Coral Sword, which rounds out our weapons for the party, giving the thief a little more offense. A cabin and a tent on the way to the vampire make me excited, more save points, and finally 1 heal potion so far out of the way that's assuredly not worth grabbing. You'd reasonably take way more than 30 damage going to grab it, so it's staying where it is. But really, the beet, meat, and potatoes down here is that the encounters can lick a horrendous portion of the horrendous part of my butt region. Arachnids, asps, cobras who don't poison but deal a billion damage, trolls, bulls, yes, your wife's boyfriend is in this game, and yes, pounds he does. Then you might think that floor 3 is better, with a new batch of enemies, new stuff to look at, and no, worse, it's amazing. You've got cockatrices who live up to their name as they petrify, meaning that's pretty much a game over if that works. Geists and wolves at groups of 9, and here's the kicker, the greatest shit ever. Fucking wizards, they're here again, and like before, this is going to be an unrunnable encounter. You need to kill them to keep going. Funnily enough, we can kill them way better now, but it's still incredibly painful to get hit by them. All this torrent of ass just to get to the vampire, who can reliably one-shot someone if I get unlucky, but they all dazzle, Twilight vampire looking ass. And that can fail or just, stuns one person, and since the defense of the vampire isn't ridiculous, I can win this fight reliably. What I can't seem to do is leave. I try to walk out of here again and again, and it's not happening. It's miserable. Dozens of times I would beat the vampire just to die to something coming back or get poisoned, and that's it. Reset. Try again. Also, due to an oversight, I saved with my thief in the 3rd position where the running bug doesn't work, so I'd have to start every attempt by hitting select, moving him over, going inside, and if you lose on the first encounter, you get tired of having to do this so often. Plus, equipping the coral sword, grabbing the items, and all that meant that time was just getting pissed down the drain. After a while, I recognized that my farming had not gone as precisely well as it should have, and I decided to make a strange choice since the thief position was also just pissing me off. Here's a tiny behind the curtain reveal. I dropped save states at every save point I used just in case I bricked the file somehow and to prevent me from having to play the game completely over again. The game only allows one save, so I don't think it's really that cheating. I have any other game I would have saved over multiple files. So I loaded the Corneria save prior to the farming and I went at this again trying to preserve as much HP as I could. Gave it 10 more attempts, and as such I have a much better success rate this time around, getting every one of my characters to the Earth Cave with over 100 HP and the thieves in the right position. So now I went at it again. After another 20 or so attempts, we make it to the vampire, defeat him moderately cleanly, and try to ascend back to the surface. The immediate plan is to save the game with a cabin and walk to the Titan's Tunnel where there are actually some pretty good treasures waiting. In addition, as I go and grab the rod, I want to farm enemies to at least level 7, so I'm plotting as painless a grinding course as I can on the encounter chart, since that save point lets me fish for whatever I want. That means dodging shadows, getting Grogers, all manner of good idea. And yeah, I actually do get to leave. Look at that string of luck. That's beauty personified. That's the first time I've been happy in weeks. Time for more pain. Since we're outside and that was terrible and took forever, I'm going to save the game right now, which restores a nice chunk of our HP. At the same time, that means I have to execute this segment flawlessly because I have no excuse not to. Plotting a course for farming enemies with the most minimum damage taken is not going to be simple. In fact, it's quite remarkably bad. In fact, it's going to greater my great log because there's a lot of shadow encounters to and fro the Titan's Tunnel, and in order to make this as good as it can get, I have to go for those large-scale enemies. Ogres, the good old Grogers, Saber-tooths, anything that has a good experience value while also having a fairly good chance of not getting a turn, and if they do, it's only one thing we have to dodge, not 9. Still, we can't do this perfectly, and starting from position 1 on the encounter table, I make my way towards grabbing the rod. A nice little bonus is that inside the Titan's Tunnel there are a couple upgrades, the Silver Helmet and Great Axe, but funnily enough, the Great Axe is pretty awful, giving a high attack statistic with a low accuracy one, meaning that my fighters who have been comfortably attacking 2 times per round would be instead attacking once, and the math of 40 times 2 versus 60 times 1 is understandably difficult to ascertain, but I have the feeling the axe sucks ass. The axe actually has a big use later, so we'll just take it anyway. And then it's some kind of Joker encounter, not like the human Joker, the metaphorical Joker. All I'm saying is that something hits me for 80 and then I have to reset again. We do this a lot, and it takes me way longer than I expected, considering that this is a slight jaunt through the Titan's Tunnel and back, but still with a lot of good luck, I managed to return to the Earth Cave rod in hand and use the tent to save with pretty good HP. Now, the reason I had to try and do this grinding flawlessly was for 2 reasons. First, Lich is just over the horizon, and this guy, this Skeletor looking ass, he's got some very painful attacks. With 400 HP and 40 absorb, this literal skeleton man is stunningly durable, which is why we actually benefit from the large axe that does more damage rather than more hits. In addition to him being quite thick, he has all 3 elemental level 2 spells, meaning the whole party is probably guaranteed to take an Ice 2 the instant the battle begins, with Ice 2 doing around 100 damage to everyone. So yeah, we need all the health we can get. Unfortunately, Lich's spell progression only has 2 placeholder spells in Sleep 2 and Fast before hitting us with Lit 2, which will end the fight. With only a 25% chance to physically attack again, thereby delaying the spellcasting fun by 1 turn, we don't have very long to actually kill this guy. And for someone without muscles, the regular punch can deal 80 damage at worst, so that's not really too tolerable either. But anyway, that's besides the point. We have to walk through the Earth Cave again, all the way to the bottom without losing too much health while getting the cabin on the 4th floor, which yeah, thank God for that being there. And then we have to defeat Lich and then get back to the boat and then get on the boat and fly over to flies wrong over the Crescent Lake, then save only out there because I'm not tolerating a walk from the Earth Cave every single time I want to try in the next section of the game, even if that means I have to fight Lich again. Although after a few more hours, I start wondering if I ever want to risk spending any more time in the Earth Cave. There's just so many conditions that force a reset. Poison damage, taking too many hits, being killed, obviously, that one's really bad. 2 people getting petrified, on and on and on. The list of possible conclusions for this spelunking is 20 to 1 in terms of tolerable outcomes. The first time I get to Lich, I decide to just peer my head in the door with absolutely trash health and 1 dead guy and dead immediately. It really doesn't bode well, and even on attempts where I get down to Lich with decent health, I suffer so much pain from the ice too, it just ends the run. And this is the only attempt in like 30 or more walks down here, so it's so sad to be bodied immediately. Yet the damage we can deal, especially with critical hits, means that we can put Lich into a wood chipper, around 3-ish rounds. Without crits, we are dealing really low damage, even like actually 1. Then we have the run. I arrive at Lich with very tolerable health, the best I've had to this point, and in this fight we endure an absolute snowstorm of damage. Like that ice 2 could not have stung more, putting all my crew to fairly ass health immediately. Still, we actually managed to slip in some crits, even as high as 122 damage, and we kill Lich, opening the pathway to the rest of the game. The rest of the game is not going to be kind to us. Welcome to Chapter 7, the Castle of Ordeals and the canoe, the little river boat. We're taking a little trip today, having some fun, get the fucking kayak out, kayak all over my cock. Oh, sorry, I'm actually getting ahead of myself. I have to walk now, but the overworld isn't the most heinously damaging place anymore. Even though my thief only has 21 HP, I decide to risk it. If he dies now, I will accept it, honestly. He's ran us to this point, and the damage he deals isn't so necessary. But that being said, him using the heal staff would be an amazing thing. If I can even get the heal staff, again, more ahead of myself I'm getting. I clench our buttholes and walk north to the boat, getting hit by 2 bad enemy groups but managing to slip past them very fortuitously. Once on the ship, things like sharks are beautiful, as they pretty much are guaranteed to die in 1 hit and probably won't go at all. Unlikely, 1 in 5 bad luck would be trash. There's no punchline to this. I do get lucky and get past all of them. Finally, on the boat and near the dock in Crescent Lake, there is no way in this world I'm risking walking to town to get the canoe first, which is annoying because it means every time I reload a save, I'm gonna have to go into the town, walk a long way around, talk to an old man with his homemade canoe, walk back around, and then try to get to the Castle of Ordeals and complete it. Reason being, everything around here is bad. We got poison enemies, we got huge big boys, we got those trolls, we got just groups with cobras. It's not happening. Save point has to go down now. Really, you have no idea how much this challenge has ruined Final Fantasy 1 for me. The game seems insurmountably impossible, and I can't get over how busted some enemies are. Scorpions? Why do they deal 50 damage? What the f? Also, little side joke, this rat fuck old man would only give us this sacred one-of-a-kind canoe if we prove our worth and defeat Lich, and that doesn't seem a little fair because like Lich is an undead overlord that lives in this scary ass cave and corrupts the land with his sheer strength. It's like asking someone to defeat Bruce Lee to buy a table, or asking you to wash your ass. It's just not feasible. Anyway, in the canoe, there's now new enemies to contend with, but that's not a huge issue at this exact point. I'll spare you the details since there's other details that are more relevant. This is technically a sequence break because the intention for the player is to go to the volcano to contend with the second of the 4 fiends, Carrie, and then go to the ice path to gain access to the airship and then traverse to the northern continent. Now, there's no way we're getting through the volcano as there's damaging tiles in the dungeon that you must cross through, and each one deals 1 point of damage, so we'll actually just melt into shit before we're done with that place. Plus, Carrie is obviously stronger than Lich, so it's high time to start grind. And to actually grind at this point, I need that heal staff, located at the top floor of the Castle of Ordeals, which is smack dab on the northern continent, but the sea connects to a river, meaning you can dock the boat on the river, ride down with the canoe, and enter the dungeon far earlier than intended. Now, let me be frank, this place is very high level, and the enemies are nasty. Red gargoyles casting fire 2 each, and there's 7 of them in the encounter, so goodbye. Zombles, your wife's boyfriend is back from the grave and now wishes to fuck your ass, and plus, this is an unrunnable encounter. Sorcerers, the upgraded wizards, now literally have a built-in mechanic where they kill you automatically if they hit you sometimes. Literally, that's it, sometimes. It doesn't even say anything, you just die. Medusas, whose attacks poison, and they also have an ability to petrify. Were tigers, who poison on attack. Are you seeing the picture? This place is absolute buttocks. Not only that, but it's a very large sea ride away, so it's just a tedious journey every time I hit that reset button. And that button I do hit. And to make matters extremely worse, at the very top of the dungeon where there's a teleporter, you have to fight zombie dragons to leave. You either get to contend with 1 or 2 of these randomly, and if there's 2, that's a reset, you lost. 1 is tolerable, but they hit very hard and have 268 HP, so it's a very difficult conclusion to the place. 20 hours of footage. I have 20 fucking hours of footage of this part, and that's on 4 times speed. I would have to reset for everything under the sun. And I didn't mention the chest with all the good items like the Zeus Gauntlet, which casts Lit 2 for free, is guarded by mud golems. And I want to mention something funny, something just fascinating. Mud, wet dirt, literal sludge, does nothing, is annoying, and golem, large bulky creation, pet the golem, man-esque thing, construct, there's nothing in particular based on that definition. But yeah, this guy poisons. Why does he poison? What did you do, nastier? Anyway, yeah, that's in the way. But the good thing is you can actually run from the mud golem, so yeah, I'm not fighting him. There's another spiked encounter right before the heal staff, but it's just Nightmares, the legendary beast, and they aren't very strong and you can run from them. Okay, that's weird. So my plan was to get the heal staff and then use a random encounter here to fully restore my health for the first time in the game, and if you needed clarification, you can only use the heal staff in battle, so like picture one imp, you could just use him and get all your health back and then continue for free. Sadly, in this hellhole, you can't do that, because between the huge amount of damage you take from everything and the status ailments, it's not worth trying. Instead, since the heal staff is on the final floor with the zombie dragons, we're just gonna go all the way through. It's also really worth grabbing the remarkably good treasures here, like the ice sword, and the first thing the thief can even equip that helps his defense, the gold bracelet, and you just in general get a huge power spike here. Plus there's a beautiful house here, free for the taking. I know, in this economy. It's in Detroit. Now I'd love to show you all the runs. I'd love to be able to quantifiably prove that I am a nut job who wasted way too much time doing this, but forget it. Here is the victory run from the boat to the end of the castle. It's the worst rash of annoying, unrunnable bad groups ever, but I make it. I push to the top, dodge the gargoyles, the sorcerers, all just to get two zombie dragons. It's sad. It's just sad. It's really just sad. But unbelievably, I actually punch a hole through one of the two very fast, and I don't sustain lethal damage. The numerous times I got this far, 2 dragons were unbeatable, but it happens. RNG happens. I am such an unreal gamer. I run back to the boat, and now it's time, the most cathartic victory of all time. I get to heal my health. I find 2 Kaizoku and I begin using the heal staff, and I just watch this. Just watch it. Look at that. Look at fucking that. This string of battles makes it all worthwhile to me. Plus, with that handy Zeus Gauntlet, the group encounters are now beautiful. I just pop them all for a ton of damage whenever the thief gets to go. This now, though, represents a scary point in the run. I can't save right this second. I've only got 1 house remaining, and it has to be used right before the ice path, as that dungeon is like the Marsh Cave version 2. It's long, full of tons of status-affecting enemies who still end the run despite my ability to heal, and as a boss with the ability to instantly kill a party member. In order to get through there, I want to be a much higher level. Now, again, this is where the encounter table is going to be literally necessary, because I don't want to run into anything that can poison me. Only problem is that I have been playing for hours and have no idea where I am on the table, and my save point is obviously back before the Castle of Ordeals, so I had to take a pause, stop recording my footage, go back and watch it, and determine the sequence of fights that I got into. I put that string of numbers into a notepad document and then tried to line it up with the encounter table, and bam, I figured it out. 30 more minutes gone. Now that we know where we are, I can do some efficient grinding, because if you're an avid player of Final Fantasy 1, you might know that the sea is completely safe from poison and has a lot of weak enemies to kill. And while that's true, the experience value is so bad, I could not imagine sitting here for many hours grinding Sahagin. My balls Sahagin on their faces. Initial idea is to get to level 15-ish, so the total value of experience to get to level 15 is 39,586, and with the highest value of experience on the sea giving 66, that takes around roughly 600 sharks. So yeah, no. Instead, I'm looking at Melmond as a good alternative. Every encounter, save for the 8th position on the table, is non-poisonous enemies who give much better experience total. Then I realized that Titan's Tunnel is actually completely better, as encounters 1 through 7 are also non-poisonous and things like Sabretooth are experience dense. This can safely get me up to a higher level without fail, and it's what I do for a while, just grinding while one of my fighters uses the heal staff and the thief uses the Zeus Gauntlet. I'm very aroused by all this. Not only are we growing much more powerful, we can also constantly heal, and it makes me wonder why this item is so brokenly good, even when allowing yourself the ability to use towns. This is still amazing. After I get a lot of levels, I set my sights on the Peninsula of Power, a point that very early in the game is inappropriately positioned on the world map grid to allow you to fight endgame enemies and reap endgame experience rewards. The only thing is, they are of course very strong, including those zombies from earlier, but we have plenty of strength and defense to farm here, and with each encounter giving around 1,000 experience, we'll take that. Plus, nothing on the peninsula poisons you, but unfortunately a lot of encounters south where my boat is parked are poisonous, so we have to pay close attention to the encounter table still. So I jostle back and forth between the hard encounters and the boat to restore my HP, and this goes swimmingly. I'm actually going so hard with this grind that we wrap around the encounter table all the way back to an 8, and we get to fight wyverns. That's cool, it's fine. They must be a little stronger than usual, but the experience is going to be better. Wyvern poisons. Why for art thou pounding my asshole? Yeah, so that's a buzzkill. That's a little world-ending problem. I mean, it is my fault, but you can forgive me because why does every random thing poison? Although it's not all bad, there is a saving grace. While you're on the sea, you don't take poison damage per step. Since you're on a boat, you aren't using your own diseased ass to walk around, I guess. And since that is the case, I left that pure in the chest way back in the Earth Cave, so it's still there as a panic option for this sort of thing. Of course, since the Earth Cave is loaded to the gills with poison as well, I have to do this correctly, and guess what? I don't do it correctly. I get into a fight with a bunch of asps immediately, and only by the grace of God do we not get a second person poisoned. After curing this, I'm about ready to save the game so I don't lose 4 hours of grinding in my completion of the Castle of Ordeals. Sadly, I decide I'm not done because I really am apprehensive about getting trashed by the ice path, and now I'm never gonna make a mistake like the Wyverns again. Right? So I inspect the encounter table and head to the riverways, which have decent enemies to grind on, but stuff like the Ochu do inflict poison, so I need to pay attention. After a while, I skedad all the way to the ice path, and finally, with true happiness in my heart, save the game at level 16 and enter Chapter 8. This point in the game encompasses the Ice Path dungeon and grabbing the airship, which gives me access to the rest of the world. First thing is first, this is classically one of the worst parts of the game and is typically considered very annoying as there's damaging floors, lots of stats inflicting enemies, and even random encounter wizards again. Golly gee. I want to fight wizards at this point though, as a cathartic experience where I cram them into jam jars. First encounter, I get stunned, take an awful amount of damage, and have to reset the game, try again. I love that I can do that though. All that just to meet 5 wizards. It's PAX West, and we slay them without challenge. That's honestly so cool, you have no idea. After this, it's Run Central. The game kindly gives us the chance to flee a lot of times, and we begin progressing through here, dodging petrified, dodging big hits, grabbing another ice sword. Walking up to this chest with ice armor in it, it is guarded by a frost dragon, uses Blizzard on us, horrendous damage sustained. Defeat it, go forward, get a tent, pitch a tent, that's another one saving the game back online. Even more armor like the ice shield, and so on. Then you gotta fall in this hole and appear in front of a chest that contains the floater, just not eating enough fiber, and guarding the chest is the eye, a boss that has the ability to gaze and petrify or rub and outright kill someone. With minimal health though, I just slap it with swords and it dies. It's funny though, it went first, it just decided to punch for 1 damage. I'm like a wizard to this thing. Back through the dungeon again, as that's how it's designed. Do it twice, bitch, with some more routine enemies, leading up to a group of 7 fucking wizards. It's GDQ, and miraculously we punch them all to death before being reciprocated upon. Then it's 5 more wizards. What is happening in this place? It's just wizards and birds living down here. Then we are free. Ice path at a reasonable level is actually reasonable. Imagine that. And now I have a decision to make. I can either save the game right now and lock in that success, or I can brave my way back to the boat, get full HP, grab the airship, begin chapter 9, and get a little more done and then save, making my potential save economy better. I opt for the latter as I am no bitch. The glory of the encounter table suggests that I'll fight Ogre and Groger next, and lo and behold I do, and I use this opportunity to farm HP with my good old heal stick. I didn't mention this before, but you can use a standard weapon with everyone else's turns to simply waste time. I never did mention how there's no defend button in Final Fantasy 1, not a concept yet, but they did have that drink button in case you gotta relax, in case you gotta get less stressed out. Anyway, full HP again, kinda accidentally punched the Ogre to death while I was trying to use items. Still more HP than I had and should be enough for the riverways. Then I'm on my way back, going through the rivers, getting to the little desert, using the little floater, obtaining our little airship. Formally allowed to progress to any objective in the world now, we have a short list left on what we need to accomplish to beat the game. I currently have 1 save point available, and within the Volcano, Cardia Isles, Waterfall, Sea Shrine, Mirage Tower, and Floating Castle, there's only 7 saves left total, and while that sounds like a monumental amount, I need to be careful with what I do. At this point in the game, it'd be easier to describe which enemies are not status inflicting, which still probably spells game over for me. Wasted saves could possibly make a long segment of the game terrible. That's the other thing currently. There's 2 very easy saves to grab at the Cardia Isles, the place where Bahamut resides, just hangs out, his house when he's not out there making stacks or killing people. This area is completely safe inside the caves themselves and offers many good items, including a cabin and house. The first thing is first though. What the fuck writing is that? The first thing is first though, because the enemies outside those caves are vengefully dangerous, with half the encounters possessing poison inflicting enemies. I stop back at Corneria and find some low level enemies to regain my fortitude on. Then, emboldened again because having health is like a drug to me at this point, I just start farming the Peninsula of Power some more. We are rapidly getting to the level where you can just absolutely trash anything in the game, and I figure it's a good idea to get more pumped before running a fade on the rest of the game. I am a white man. Now that we're level 17, I didn't actually want to do much grinding. I wanted to see the new horizons, so I headed to the Cardia Isles to get the class change. That's the big draw there. But little did this dickhead dragon realize I just wanted his mobile home. It's still cool though. Now we will receive greater increases from levels, and in the case of the thief, becoming the ninja allows him to use way better equipment and is now far more legitimate of a character. Still the gauntlet, bitch, TBH. Now, we still have not saved from the ice path, because even though we possess 3 save points, I have to complete the waterfall and the sea shrine dry because they don't give me any new saving items in those dungeons. You need to complete the waterfall and a large swath of the sea shrine to open up both the Mirage Tower and the floating castle. So yeah, we gotta take the risk. We're going for the waterfall in order to get that out of the way. On the way there, we grab the ferry, the one and only time we have to spend money in the game. We mentioned it, we talked about it, don't go back and watch. This ferry is the ticket to accessing the sea shrine, so drop 50,000 gold and that's that. Good, holding the rest of my money forever. After that, I went and grabbed the Oxyale from the ferry we released from the bottle. Believe me, this is some cryptic shit normally. Final Fantasy 1, great game. Anyway, now we're back on this continent, and let me show you this because it's kind of a total pain. This location is sweltering in crazy enemies like the Beretta. This thing, it just slams ass, easily dealing over 100 damage per hit. So yeah, I'm a little scared, baby boy, oh bitch. That's what I am. To the north of these rivers is the waterfall, and it's just a short dungeon, so that's where I'm heading now. Just check with the encounter table. Okay, it's looking good. Into the rivers, expecting some Carbees. It's in the Ochu. It instantly attacks and poisons someone. Excuse me, where art mine ball crushing device? Yeah, the northern continents have different rivers than the southern ones. I forgot that and suck ass. Yes, I agree. But really, one attack, one time, one enemy. I'm out of pures, so this guy, I mean, he's kind of doomed now. The only choice I have is to go grab one of the 3 pures left in the entire game, but the walks are going to be nuts. Nuts. The other alternative is to reset, and I really don't feel like going back before the ice path, so I head over to Corneria, farm up max HP before going on a grand adventure. Inside the volcano, there is a pure early on I can grab, which would obviously rectify the stupidity from the river. Sadly, there's also a lot of poisoning monsters in here. Seriously, scorpions in a volcano? What the fuck? Yeah, this is fine though. Let's call it chapter 10. The volcano, let's just do it. Why not? And get this place cleared out right away. Goals are to grab the pure, get 2 more save points, punch carry, and hop out of here. The good news is that this place is supposed to predate the ice path, so it's easier than a lot of what we've already accomplished. Our levels are titanic for this dungeon, and just by maneuvering around correctly, I dodged the poisonous encounters. Except for these peds, I literally failed and could have taken a second poison. Running to the rescue, rocking it old school. I've got the pure in hand, and here we are, back to standard health. Now, the rest of the dungeon is routine and simple, but there's a pit stop I have to make, and it's quite honestly one of the best grinding locations in the game. This is the Agama, the red iguana. A goddamn Agama. It gives 2,472 experience when killed, which equates to over 600 for each party member per fight. There's a spot in front of 2 chests where there's a spiked Agama encounter, meaning if you just move up and down, you have 100% fight uptime, and since they're not very strong, you can see this benefit. I grind this for only an hour and get up to level 28, more than enough for the rest of the game. Time to make like Jimmy Poutron and butt blast this place. I'm sorry, that's writing only an ape could love, mostly because they're illiterate fucking morons who don't speak English. So we're at our power level that I'm going to remain consistent at for the rest of the game. No more deliberate grinding. Now I just have to head over to Carrie, and compared to Lich, there's not much to say. Honestly, this boss has no special frills. She'll hit you with some spell casting that can harm the entire party, but usually she opts to physically attack, which can sting as she hits 6 times. But with high defense body armor, you don't take that much. And since she sits at 600 HP, it means it won't take terribly long to cut her down. 2 rounds and dead. Goodbye, chapter 11. Now that we're done with all of that, I've earned a save point and the rest of the game is on the horizon. Quick pit stop on bones to regrow bones. Then I'm headed back to the waterfall where, I'm not kidding, half of the encounter numbers in here represent enemies who inflict poison or petrify. So yeah, while the damage doesn't scare me, it's great when I'm 1 moment from completing this place and I'm hit with a random back to the title screen special. I saved directly outside, so I don't care, but after the many weeks I've been playing this, I don't want to ever hit the reset button again. This dungeon is more of a maze and it's not that big, so that's good. You get a great sword called the Defense in here. That makes sense. That's a good name for a weapon. And you grab a ribbon, an item that protects against all elements, which has some implication and is generally the best helmet in the game. As we go on, I'll pitch my defensive headpieces for these little girl ribbons. That's what real warriors of light wear. You also grab the cube in here and leave. You have to talk to the robot who says, hey yo, some fucks came by. Have this legendary cube. We leave. Now, the sea shrine is perfectly available right on the way back down this river, and we head inside to take care of business. Gotta punch this squid in his ball head. Squids store balls in head? I figured you'd like to know I'm full of facts. I'm full of cool things. Like squids' heads being full of balls. For some reason, this place has poisonous enemies. Can you imagine that? So the hypercommon sea lobster, that sounds poisonous, dearie me, will just inflict the classic status ailment and make me reset. It never happens. I'll spoil the surprise. Like, really, this is a chill time. There's a lot of enemies like ghosts that deal absurd damage, but I have the heal staff, so what do I care? Whenever I get low, just refresh on the group of red Sahagins or whatever, and I continue onwards. As another benefit, this dungeon contains some of the best armor in the game, making us way more tanky. The game's really coming together. I'm getting my life back. It's rapidly approaching. We grab the slab that's necessary to enter the Mirage Tower, the fourth and final Fiend dungeon, and we zip through to the bottom floor. It's Kraken! He's dead. He's dead. He's dead. Look at that. But not without severely smacking one of my fighters. Little do I care. Not dead equals no reset. I save the moment I get outside, and thus begins Chapter 12. The Mirage Tower is accessible as soon as I get this slab turned into a scientist man in Melmon and then fly over to the final city of the game, Layfine. This is busy work. It means little to the viewer, of which you are. So I'm sorry I'm wasting your time. Back after all of that, the tower is open. All that we have to do to beat the game is traverse this place and then the final dungeon. It took me literal in real life weeks to complete Garland alone and then one afternoon to complete the last 4 chapters. Imagine that. The Mirage Tower is full of terrible things like man cats or catmans, one or the other. There's actually literally both, and they all poison. So, you know, hurry out of here. This place rounds out some of the best equipment in the game, including the Sun Sword and even the Heal Helm, which acts exactly as the heal staff, meaning I can double my healing output. Problem is, you can only hold 16 weapons and armor in Final Fantasy 1, so I'll be dropping this helmet as soon as I find the ribbon that's literally upstairs. There's another 2 saving items, and I actually realized that I was redundant and did not need to have this many, which is foolish of me, and it made my life way more hard and scary, but you know, it was a better video because of it. Walking around poisoned for no reason. Fantastic. So, you know, routine, powerhouse gaming, cool guy, awesome guy, climb the stairs, I'm the cool guy, I'm the awesome guy, punch the thing, spike blue dragon boss encounter, actually sustain really big damage, scarier than I expected, but it's dead, never have to see that guy again, and get ready to go up to the floating castle by using the cube and, I had the cube, I went and got the cube, I didn't talk to the robot the second time, I didn't talk to Alexa that second time, I figured it out. I have to leave and go back to the waterfall, which is a legitimately massive blunder. Now those redundant save points don't seem so redundant. Outside, airship, land, north waterfall, speedy noises. I should have made some. Woo! Get inside the cube. Get the cube for real this time. Leave. Woo! Back in the airship. Get back in the tower. Upstairs. Fight blue dragons again. And finally, okay, back to where we were. It's disappointing describing Final Fantasy 1 at this point because, well, we're just huge. We can't lose. Sure, I don't want to encounter things that cause status ailments, but as for the enemies and the bosses, I just smoke everything. We collect even more best equipment in the game, including the adamant, which makes the Excalibur once we get out of here, some pro rings, which prevent instant kills from working. We crush the heal helmet like it's a garbage can and grab the final ribbon, and just like that, we're at the final fiend of the game, Tiamat. If you're a Tiamat fan, I'm fucking pissed. It's Taya. It's Taya. It's probably Tia. Now, this fight isn't baby o'clock, but it's vaguely toddler time. The only threatening point of the fight is where Tiamat casts a huge group hitting magic spell that just chunks the absolute shit out of my thief and puts the hurt on one of my fighters as well. Other than that, it's 3 rounds of smacking, holding A, major strategy, and I come out of here mostly a hero. Now, funnily enough, Chapter 13, our last, isn't even well explained in-game as to why it mattered. As far as the game has told you, you just needed to restore the 4 orbs you're carrying around and boom, done, let's go home, order pizza. But no, it's back to the Temple of Fiends, where we can now walk onto a teleporter in this room that brings us back in time 1,000 years. Basically back to when there were more worms wandering the earth and also gas dragons. Before that, quick hop over to the Dwarf Cave to grab the second best sword in the game, the Excalibur, and then farm back to full health and save. Bingo, there it is. The Temple of Fiends Revisited is the final dungeon, and it's probably the hardest one as well, but the thing is, I'm definitely strong enough to make it through here, but with the numerous unrunnable encounters, having to refight stronger versions of all 4 fiends, and finally taking on the final boss of Chaos, it becomes apparent that having healing magic on reserve would be nice. Normally, I bring 99 heal potions whenever I go to this place, but yeah, not the case today. As a result, periodically, I have to stop moving and progressing and use the heal staff while fighting one weak enemy. It works out okay, and it's good that I do so because Kraken, for example, nearly kills one of my gang immediately. It has been a long road, and we're we're not going to let any of my friends die. We're coming out of this game together, arm in arm. Funnily enough, though, I really don't care anymore. We can still beat the game with 3 people, even 2 people, even 1 guy, as long as it's the guy with the best weapon in the game, the Masamune, which is also the only side objective in here. It's to collect the best weapon in the game, the Masamune. And it's so ridiculously strong that the person with it equipped can push some massive damage onto anything, even the thief. It's not going on the thief, fucking rat bastard. And yeah, slow plotting struggle until we get into the final room of the game and begin the battle. Chaos has 2000 HP and is thicker than I am, and I'm talking mentally, not ass size. Regardless, his health and durability are secondary concerns to his instant killing abilities, full heal, status effects, and the girthy dick. Fight begins and we pepper him up pretty good, scoring several hundred damage. He flexes his mighty arms and casts Ice 3, dealing a lot, and then Lit 3, killing the thief instantly. Never mind, we're not beating the game with everyone alive. I am not redoing this for the thief's benefit. It's good that the Masamune and Excalibur are actually strong weapons too, by the way, because I'd like to point out how Mr. Sun Sword did a combined 25 damage with 3 attacks. But there we have it, at the very top of the game, the pinnacle of challenge. Everything's so difficult and against us. We cut off his large log and his head and his butt cheeks, and we have beaten the game. Chaos is dead, and I am a champion. I am one of the greatest game players of all time. I totally want to celebrate this time with you at the top of the cliff of dead fighters, black belts, and thieves, and look back on the things we accomplished. The wonderful time with Garland, the pirates, the RNG walking, the marsh cave. Yeah, sorry, I have to come clean about something. I didn't actually beat the wizards or Astos legitimately. Isn't that a big kick in your balls right now? Everything up to the save point before the marsh cave was unaided, but I'm not lying. I couldn't fucking actually beat them. I spent weeks, thousands of attempts running down to the wizards, and really, it's probably impossible for a human to do it. I did a few things. I proved via save stating in front of the boss that you can beat them without cheating in the fight, but the luck necessary to do so is so vile, I was growing uncontrollably bored. The fact is, though, you can walk there, you can get 2 wizards to spawn, you can possibly beat them in combat with lucky crits, and you can maybe walk out. Nothing is literally impossible, but practically, I'm not so sure. As for Astos, I literally had attempts where I went 11 rounds deep and just died. 11 shitting rounds where I would have everyone alive, hit him a ton, and it just didn't happen. I've even been returning to my save point right there as I've been making this video, and I could not legitimately beat him, but it's definitely possible. What actually did legitimately happen without save states was me being able to defeat the wizards and Astos with a few people dead each time, specifically 2 on the wizards and 1 on Astos, but there's no way to concede people that early. So I apologize for my duplicitous video making, but please, if you want to style on my balls, go ahead and try it. Maybe you could actually beat the game in this challenge completely legitimately without save stating anything. Later versions of the game have the memo feature, a built-in cheating device allowing you to save anywhere, so that nullifies a lot of the difficulty, but still requires you to get a lot of luck in the right spots. But for me, this has represented the longest endeavor on the channel for both a challenge run being ridiculously hard to accomplish and for me making the actual video you just sucked in with your ears. That's a portmanteau of eye and ears. It's been an hour and some time. Take what you can get. The writing is strained and my ass is pained. By the way, I might do this challenge for every single Final Fantasy game.